Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, everybody. Hey, can everybody on Zoom hear us okay? No echo, we're nice and loud for everyone? All right, good. Good morning, everybody. I am going to call to order the special meeting of the Board of Directors for the Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority for Friday, May 6th. At this time, can Mr. Murdoch, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, sir? Thank you, Mr. Murdoch. I do appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody for joining us at home via Zoom. I know this is kind of with short notice, but we do appreciate everybody making time in their busy schedules to address this. We felt this was of good nature for the board to meet and discuss this item today that we're going to be going over there. We do have a new board clerk. Ms. Lisa Farmer is here with us this morning. Ms. Farmer, welcome. It's always nice to see you. And Ms. Farmer, will you please do roll call for us?
Thank you. Commissioner Bob Lucy?
Here.
Mayor Hillary Sheevy?
She's absent today.
Councilwoman Charlene Bybee?
Here.
Mr. Stephen Esquaga?
Here.
Mr. Andy Chapman?
Here.
Ms. Shannon Keel? Here. Mr. Rick Murdoch?
Here.
Ms. Ann Silver is absent today, and Ms. Jessica Safraza. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Ms. Farmer. I do appreciate it. And we do have a phone number on Zoom. I don't know. I don't recognize that phone number. Is that a board member? No? Okay. All right. So we have a quorum of the board at this time. We will move into item B. This is public comment. Ms. Farmer, is there any public comment signed in this morning?
None at this time.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to item C. This is the approval of the agenda for today's meeting, May 6, 2022, special meeting of the Board of Directors. There are no changes at this time that need to be discussed or changes to but I'm looking for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
I have a chair from Councilwoman Bybee. Do I have a second? Second from Mr. Murdoch. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We are on to item D. This is the approval of the minutes of the April 15th, 2022 special meeting of the Board of Directors. The minutes have been placed in your packet. If there are any amendments that need to be made to the minutes as drafted, please let us know. If not, we will move forward with approving the minutes as posted. Looking for a motion. Oh, Mr. Fraza.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. I do have a couple.
Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Just on the special events funding, under the minutes, I guess, I don't know if it's appropriate under the minutes, but are we going to get that committee established? I know we had voted for the additional members, Mr. Chair, just so we have it for the next funding cycle.
We can bring that up under member comments,
Okay.
Mr. Fraza, but we can definitely have that discussion under member comments.
Cool.
So at this time, I have a motion from Mr. Fraza to approve the minutes. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second from Mr. Murdoch. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are to item E1. This is a review, discussion, and possible action to provide special event funding for the Miss USA pageant. The Board of Directors is being asked to review and discuss and take action on a request from the Miss USA brand corporation, and they would like some special event funding for the 2022 Miss USA, Miss Teen USA pageants that would take place here in Reno Sparks, but not to exceed $250,000. So with that, I can turn it over to Mr. Harris, who is joining us via Zoom, to cover the details of that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hopefully you can hear me and everyone in the room can hear me clearly. Sorry that I'm not able to be there in person here this morning. We received information through board member Shannon Keel that there was an opportunity to consider having Miss USA, Miss Teen USA come to Reno in the fall of this year. Subsequently, I had a meeting with their team They were seeking up to the same amount that was funded the last time this event came to Reno, which was $450,000. The event, the initial time that this event happened, there was $100,000 that was contributed by Travel Nevada towards this. And in meeting with Shannon Keel and with the folks at Miss USA, we received a deck, proposal deck that had information. We went through and we had the team evaluate that deck, which is included in the staff report, and to make recommendations. Now, the reason that we came back with the recommendation to fund this no more than $250,000 is, one, we did not receive participation from Travel Nevada for this go around, and two, the information that we received, while there is absolutely publicity value in this, we believe that so far to date, and Christina Ernie can comment a little bit as well, we don't have complete information. And so based upon what we have received, the timing that we need to make a decision, that we decided that up to $250,000 is what we would recommend funding this event. Mr. Chair, I'm happy to comment more, but that's a summary of where we are today.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Harris. Do appreciate that. Ms. Ernie and Mr. Larragueta. Ms. Ernie, I have a couple questions in regards to this. In regards to the 2019 event, we did, as Mr. Harris pointed out, $350,000 was awarded for that event. A majority of that was meant towards marketing the region and really doing kind of name ID. What did we see on that above, room nights and visitation? But what did our marketing? How did that impact our marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. We did receive a number of deliverables in 2019, and this year they came back with a proposal, and they did agree upon guaranteeing the same deliverables from 2019, which does include a ton of social media posts across all of the platforms of the participants and the Miss USA organization, which do have a major following. I believe it's all included in the board packet. So they did deliver on everything that we contracted with them last time, and they have agreed to match those deliverables, and they actually agreed to a couple additional social media posts. What's different from the 2019 to the 2022 year here is it has moved from Fox to Hulu, and the Fox broadcast also included a post-event streaming to over 70 different countries. We have reached out and asked what their Hulu numbers and data was from 2021 last year, and what they're anticipated is for this coming year, and they said they're still looking into that, and they're going to provide that back to us. So that's one difference. Also, last time they were able to contract with several hotels. They contracted with Harrah's and the Row in addition to the Grand Sierra, and currently they have only contracted with the Grand Sierra to my knowledge, but the Miss USA organization did say that they were actively working on establishing additional contracts around town and with other businesses around town as well. Did that help answer?
Thank you. Any other questions? Mrs. Fraza.
Just several questions, because and I do appreciate staff putting this together, because we asked them to do it quickly, and I am sympathetic to. We as a board probably need to be a little more disciplined, myself included, with these events. Staff vetted this. I'm looking to staff on their recommendation. That's a huge range from 150 to 250. What do you think the deliverables are? I guess two questions. The Hulu, that's a big, huge change. You have to have a subscription to Hulu. I don't even have a subscription to Hulu. I think that takes away a lot of the reach of last time. I think the state not participating, the Commission on Tourism, that says a lot. And also, I want to know specifically, getting back to, I think, Board Member Esquaga and Board Member Murdoch had mentioned this, the room nights in particular, and I know, again, I know I'm putting staff on the spot because you guys haven't had a lot of time to vet this, but because it didn't go through the regular process of special events funding, and this is a huge dollar amount, huge. You know, bowling, other contracts that we do, it goes through the vetting process, and we see the contracts, the different contracts, lineage fees, how much comes back to the RSCVA. In this case, and again, this is not a criticism of staff because we asked you to put together it pretty quickly. What is that return on investment on the room nights? Particularly, there's a lot of comp room nights with this particular event.
So if I can jump in, Jessica, so in putting together this information, I went to Mike Larraguette on our sales team, and I said, if we were to equate this to a meeting or convention, what would that look like in terms of the equation of what we would help supplement that? And I believe, Mike, you came back to me and said it's about $10,000 of where we would put that at in terms of that return to us, or what we would fund this. A couple of things that I would like to comment on. And again, I don't want to take away from the publicity or the opportunity to bid on this project, but a couple of things we need to note. Number one, that if we fund this, that money, if approved, has to come out of our marketing spend for the 2022-2023 year. We need to align our goals accordingly with the reduction in dollars that we're going to move around. The second thing is we have to evaluate, does this event help us elevate our image as a brand as we look to attract new meetings and conventions as well as additional visitors? What I've heard is the initial time that we did it, there was a lot of great publicity, but what the staff had really said was they couldn't measure that impact on return of visitors coming from that initial time. And so that's rather important to us. In the scheme of things, when we look at our marketing spend, we do have some on-air television advertising, but what I would say is we focused our spending really on measurable tools and the programs that we can use to measure. And unfortunately, this is one of those events that if we choose to fund, the measurement will be really tough to do. And so I just want to be able to note that in terms of our strategic outlook and how we move forward.
And again, just to follow up, I'm really looking to our staff, guidance from our staff, on what staff would recommend based on the information. I'm sorry to give, I don't want to just arbitrarily pick a number out of the air. Because I do think there is some value to having this event here. I'm just trying to equate it to the dollar amount. I am supportive of something. I just really need staff's, and again, I'm sorry to put you guys on the spot. I just really want to know what staff's feeling is on the dollar amount.
So, Member Safraza, maybe I can give a little bit of clarity too to the comp room nights versus cash room nights. Between the three hotels, participating hotels, which was GSR as the main hotel, Harrah's in the Row, the total room nights for the overall event were 1,806 paid room nights. Okay. Now, for comp room nights between GSR and Harrah's, they did 2,732 comp room nights. So there was a significant amount of more comp room nights between Harrah's and GSR for the event, which they did make those pledges for, that was part of, in addition to the contribution from the RSCVA and the 2019 event. So that, just for clarification for you.
And then I guess, Mr. Chairman, do we still get room tax? And I'm sorry, I don't know this.
No.
On the comp rooms?
No.
Okay, so it's completely exempt.
No, and just for clarification, Jessica, if I could weigh in, on the current proposal, what the request came in, that the largest for the comp nights for this year, and Shannon can probably weigh in as well, the proposal currently asks for between 900 and 1,000 comp room nights for staff and contestants, and then some lower amounts for some other comp room nights for judges and some suites and things like that.
So what's that fiscal impact on the comp room nights then? Because we're asking for this sponsorship. How does that equate if we add in those comp room nights? Charles, how would that equate to part of this overall funding package? Let's say staff's recommending X number, then we've got to add that loss of room night revenue, taxes to the region. So we got to put that in the line item of a spend. Am I wrong?
Yeah, well, the comp room nights are going to be absorbed by the individual hotel as part of their sponsorship and commitment to doing that event. It's not really a loss per se. It would be that if we're not going to realize that through other programs that the hotels would have to take advantage of those, but we don't control that from an RSCVA standpoint. My larger concern is no matter what we decide or what the board decides as a group is, will it be enough to be able to move the needle to secure the event, knowing that we're not getting participation from the state in order to realize what that impact might be in a positive light for the destination?
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Councilwoman Barbie.
Kind of in following up on that, I guess, I don't know if Courtney or Christina or Mike can answer this. So you've got the comp room nights, but we did have 2,700 paid, no, 1,800 paid room nights in 2019. So what does that generate in room tax revenue? And I guess what I'm really looking for is what is the fiscal impact to the community? I know from Golden Eagle, and we calculate Golden Eagle, all the tournaments, and what is the fiscal impact, which is not just room nights, it's gas, which is huge, just everything they're spending while they're here. And I think in all of our events we do that. So we know what the economic impact of each convention that comes in here. So I'm looking for what was the economic impact, just strict dollars, in 2019, and kind of what we anticipate for this year, because I think that's critical for me in making a decision, because I agree with Ms. Ferraza that I support the event itself, and I really appreciate, the exposure and the media coverage. Hulu is a different than Fox, but surely there is economic impact. So that would help me weigh, maybe the amount that we're looking at based on what that economic impact we estimate, and then what we actually, compared to what we gave last year, what was our economic impact in 2019? Thank you.
I think we
Councilman
absolutely
Bobby, I
can.
can speak to that.
Go ahead, I'll let Mike speak.
I'm sorry, I apologize. So in this scenario, yes, we look at every major group when we're looking at giving them compensation to bring that business to the region. And in this particular case, I wouldn't look at this as just as a convention, right? So to Charles' earlier comments, we have a model that we use based on the paid room nights and the room tax that's collected. And we basically generate a number that we feel that we could offer to that group to bring the business here. In this scenario, it's more about the exposure, the social media, the branding that we get. If we just looked at it as a convention, yes, you could, Councilman Webber, you could generate an economic impact, and that would be a number. But I think in this scenario, you have to look at it's more from a marketing perspective and the value as it relates to what it does for the region on a global scale, because obviously this is an international piece of business. So it's not apples and oranges. It's not exactly like you're looking at a convention and judging the impact as a economic impact just on paid room nights and comp room nights. It's really about the exposure we're getting from a marketing perspective.
Ms. Keel.
Thank you. So to follow up on the room nights, so for this year, the comp room nights are midweek only, not on the weekend. And it's late September. So we will not be displacing any room tax dollars, because the only way to displace it would assume that the hotels would be 100% full midweek, and most likely that's not the case. So they will be spending, the cash room nights will be happening on the weekend.
So do we have that contract with GSR then in that group, since we're being asked to expend this amount of money? Like, I would like to see that contract so we get the deliverables on the public body on what that's going to be. Like, we see it, like, that's my issue, to be blunt. We've all talked about having the numbers and information, all this on this board, and that's vetted when it goes through the special events process of what those, whether it's the room or the air races, the bowling,
Absolutely.
all that stuff that we had. And that's the challenge I'm having, Shannon, because I actually support this. I want to do something for it, but I'm also not hearing staff tell me what that amount is. And
Yeah, they're having a hard time giving you a number, because just like any marketer knows, like, to be able to give a dollar for dollar to be able to quantify an ROI on marketing spend is extremely difficult to do. So just to clarify, we have not signed they have not signed a contract with GSR because we're waiting for this to happen. All the deliverables are outlined in the presentation that they gave to staff. And what I'm not seeing on here is the number of room nights. So that should be included in here because that is from an economic impact from a city standpoint. How many room nights are going to be comp? How many room nights are going to be cash? That probably should be in these deliverables. I would agree with that. So there are pieces of if GSR was to contract with them, there probably are pieces that should be in the public sector, like the number of room nights that are cash and comp and things like that.
And the other thing is, when I wasn't here last time when this event was awarded, but why the pointing the gun to the head last minute again? I mean,
crazy.
to me, that
agree.
seems like we're an afterthought. I mean, why can't they come in through the regular process? We're just saying that about TEDx and all these other events. Why not have them come through and vet it? So why do we have to do this today? When's our next meeting for the Special Events Committee? Is it June? Where staff, I guess I'd ask staff to go through and thoroughly vet. I thought a lot about what you said, Board Member Esquaga, last time, and I'll take the blame too, because I was like, let's fund this, let's fund this. And I think you made a really good point. We've got to have these things vetted. And I don't want to be a no vote. I want to support this, but that's the issue that I'm having. I feel like we're putting staff in a really uncomfortable situation here. And they did this once, and now they're doing it again. This is twice. And
I agree.
now all of a sudden
I totally agree with you. I have no idea why they do everything. When they actually get here, they're very organized. For those of you who did work with them, they're very good. They're very organized. Pre-planning, I have no idea why they do it this way. They have their own deadlines because I know there's other regions that are on the docket, and they have to make a decision. I don't know why it came so last minute. But even if we wait a few more weeks, I guess we have to look to staff to be able to, from them, are they going to be able to give you what you're looking for in a few weeks? Because like I said, we're going to spend this money in marketing anyways. Let's just be clear. Like the marketing budget, we know we spend the money in marketing.
Right.
So I think the question really is, if we don't spend the $250,000 here, what are we spending the $250,000 on? And which one do we think would be a better benefit to the region?
Right. And so let me jump in here really quick, and I want to bring a little bit, once again, I like to be the old guy in the room for a minute. In years past, we have, on some of our legacy events, like the Reno Air Races, in other events that have brought national coverage to the region, we have spent more money on through special events funding and marketing spends. For example, when Still was the sponsor and we were going to get time on NBC Sports TV for the air races, we did obligate $175,000 in addition to the special events funding for the Reno air races for that type of media buy. And so we have done this significant type of expenditure on other local events previously, to Ms. Keel's point, to add to the marketing spend, because we feel that the marketing is beneficial for the region and it lends to the brand. I think the question today really lends itself back to is that, as staff has pointed out, it's going to be really difficult to make sure that there's a equation or equate the outcome of the room nights to the spend and whatnot. So what we really need to kind of go and look at, does this meet the brand of what Reno Tahoe wants to be and what we're looking to spend? And what does that spend look like based upon what they're offering? Last time it was Fox, now it's Hulu. There are some concerns with that outreach. So those are really the discussion points versus having a discussion about, are we going to recover the cost? You're not going to truly recover this cost room night to dollar spend. It's just not, you can't make that equation. But you can talk about, does this impact the brand based upon the brains in the room? Do we feel that the travel through our airport, the stay in our region, the stays at our hotels, the visitation to our region it's a 3-week period, is it not, Shannon? That they're here between staff time when they...
Yeah, if you include that, yes.
So staff, between the time that they have staff here, the initial staff lands, it's about 120 people through The event itself, it's about 3 weeks of time that you have individuals from starting about 120 people all the way up to a max of about yeah. So you do have different utilization, and so that, you know, you may not be getting it in room tax, but you might be getting it in F&B and visitation outside. So just wanted to bring some perception. There you go, sir. Mr. Murdoch.
Two questions. One is, you look at it like, what is our advertising budget total for this year?
So for the current year, our promotions and advertising budget is around 8 million, and the advertising portion of that is over 5 million.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. I mean, if you look at it through the lens that you just brought up, or you're saying, is this a component of advertising the destination as highlighting it? So you look at it as that. And I would ask, is it the value really $250, or is it $150 if I had to go buy this TV time and this social media time? Is it $150? What would it be, Christine, if you had to write it, if we had to go buy it? You know what I'm saying? And that, because I think, especially coming out of COVID, that I kind of agree that we really need to highlight our destination again, because it's getting busier and busier. And like Shannon did mention, one thing, we do need business towards the end of the, when you look at the quarters, the summer's almost over and we start to slip into the fourth quarter. It's not a bad thing. But I keep asking the question, what is it really gonna cost us? And is it really worth $150,000? What number would you put on it if you were buying this, if you were buying a component of this? Then the last question I have is, Courtney, I guess I could ask you, we have a lot of monies that whether it's the airline fund and other funds that are sitting there, we're not gonna spend this year, I'm assuming, even the CapEx, because we're not gonna get there in time. So we've got this money in the budget. How much is that gonna be sitting there that we don't use, we use it or lose it?
So we've actually built the Miss America funding. We have a placeholder for it in next year's budget, and next year's budget includes any rollover funds that aren't being spent this year. So we do have it dedicated right now as a placeholder in that budget pending the board's decision. So the money's already aside.
Mr. Chair?
Really quick before we let Ms. Ernie speak, we're looking at about a 14% rollover, correct, over into your balance?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you.
What's the number of the 14%? Is it
So right now, our estimate is that we'll have about 4.8 million in roll forward fund balance that we're assigning towards the 22-23 budget.
for instance, the airline budget?
Exactly.
It never starts over, it doesn't accrue.
No.
It just disintegrates, it starts over at 1.5 or whatever.
Yes.
Exactly. So right now, our estimate is we won't spend it, so we've rolled that forward into our fund balance estimates, and it's getting assigned to spend next year.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to let Mr. Esquaga, I'm going to let Mr. Ernie answer the ad buy question, and then I will go to you, sir. Ms. Ernie.
Hi, everyone. So I'm in the same predicament with you guys on the Hulu. We don't have their numbers on there, and that's where it's really hard to put a value to that side. I don't know what type of promotions they're doing on Hulu at this point. We just haven't had enough time to have those discussions, and they said that they were going to go back and gather all that data and bring it back to me, and they just haven't been able to do that yet. So it's really hard to put a value on the Hulu portion of it. I will say that the social media part, last time when they came here to, I forget who said it, but they were here for several weeks, and we did outline a very thorough program for them to go around our destination to highlight all of the activities and things to do and businesses. And it was several days of it, and they promised that they would be able to do that again this year. So I do think that that social media value is significant, just to have the sheer number of people from all the different states, from the teens to the Miss USA contestants to their platforms. But it's just, that's why Mr. Harris put in a range there. It's just so hard to determine what that Hulu spend is with incomplete data. And we have a ton of follow-up questions for their team. It just didn't come around in time for this meeting.
Okay.
Let me ask you this.
Hold on,
Oh.
Hold on, Mr. Murphy. Mr. Harris, do you want to say something really quick in
Yeah,
addition?
thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things. So it's rather complicated as we look to try to dissect and create what that value is. And let me give you a couple of examples. On the side that we would evaluate had we had all the information, the Hulu agreement has X amount of international visitors. And really the marketing that we do to attract new visitation to the region is primarily domestic. We're a domestic regional destination with targeted messaging that we include for lift based upon where the airlines fly. And so part of that, if we were given our druthers, we probably wouldn't spend because it's going to the international. On the second piece is once we have that final number of what the actual room night spend is, there's an economic impact calculator that Destinations International produces, and we have our own way to value that. If it were at 1,800 room nights, and the average person would spend between $500 and $700 towards those room nights, which would include meals and gaming and whatever you have, you're talking about an economic impact, and I'm doing this off the napkin here, between $900,000 and $1.2 million. Now that is, we can't give you a final number because we still have to get to the bottom line of what that impact is, but I want to show both sides of how we are trying to evaluate what that impact really would mean should we fund this. Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Murdoch.
Okay, I got one, this simplify it even better. If we were buying social media, how's that one? If we were buying social media like we buy, we all buy it in our properties. Right. So what is the value of the social media? Maybe you can give me, you have to be close, just something that gives us a good number, because I think, like I said, we want to get there. Can you give us something?
I mean, it's.
You had to buy it for something else.
Rick,
right.
Rick. Go ahead, Christina, sorry.
I was just going to say, it's a little more complicated than that because it's not apples to apples. It's not us promoting a post and running an ad, It does have, that influencer program. I feel like this is closer to an influencer program than purchasing a social media ad. Just because, we do buy with other companies and we'll get a post on their platform, like Miss USA will post on their platform. That's worth something. But then all of the contestants talking about it for a week and tagging us. And last time they really went above and beyond. So I feel like it was, I feel like we did get our money's worth last time in some of that spend there with marketing. So I feel like there is value there.
Mr. Esquaga.
Chair.
Hold on one second. I'm going to go with Mr. Esquaga first, and then I'm going to go with Mr. Chapman. He's been patiently waiting, and then we can go back and finish. So, Mr. Esquaga.
No, I think this is the discussion we probably need to have, right, on a lot of these events. I'm glad that it did go through a process with special events and marketing. And I appreciate your comments as well, Member Sferrazza, on just, again, I think looking at that investment of the room tax, what's it generating. All these event evaluations get a little squishy, I think, because everything brings, one event brings a certain component totally different than the other. And I do think there's a value. I think there's a value to the brand Miss USA. I think there's a value to the brand Reno Tahoe. I'm there too on, do something, trying to, and honestly, even the 150 to 250 range gives me at least something to kind of start honing in on. There's a side, I think, I believe last time they did the event, we got kind of a recap afterwards, and we're able to see, I thought the production value was quality. It looked good. I think it highlights one of our premier properties. So it's a positive, branding of our area, showing something like the GSR and seeing that kind of production with their showroom and all that. I think it's really drilling down to this number. And, on it, my gut tells me 350 was too high last time. I also don't really care for the fact that we're in this final hour. And what did Tulsa do, right? Did Tulsa just not re-up, so now it's on? Or are they kicking a few cans down the road? Personally, I would be comfortable, and I'm not putting this in the form of a motion, but what if we were to come in, again, maybe this is too low, but 100 to 150, somewhere in there with a kicker. If we hit a few of these three very, I think they could be, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but if there's a few metrics tied to Hulu, tied to their social media posts, something that we can measure easily that doesn't get too gray, but, and we'll go up to 250. Again, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but I'm there to do something. I just think we want to be, fair to everybody, fair to the RSCVA. And, you know, so I think somewhere in that, I'm okay on the starting level in that range, but I wouldn't mind tying something, a carrot to it as well. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Mr. Esquaga. Mr. Chapman.
Great, thank you. Really good conversation. So a couple of points that I am just jotting down here. And certainly I like your description as a influencer type project. That's really what this is. So I would ask, or I would question, would we buy that audience? Would we buy that target in our normal marketing plan that we have in place? So I would just question that. I am concerned about out of the standard process. We continue to do this time and time again. There is a process in place, and sometimes you have to make those hard decisions about, if it's outside of that process and it's maybe not hitting on all the channels or all the cylinders, then you question that. It is a single hotel. I do believe that I heard that there is mention that they're going to look for additional hotels, but the single hotel at this point in time to make a decision on is a concern. And I question the brand alignment and the customer affinity to this and to the Reno Tahoe market and kind of where we are taking the destination in the, kind of outdoor, certainly gaming for sure, but, does this fit? And that's a question that I would just ask the group. Going back to the economic benefit, the 1,800 room nights, I don't know what the ADRs were at that time back in September of 2019, if that's when this was. Was it somewhere between $100 and $200? That gives you a total amount, and you can figure out the TOT from there. It's not a big number. Certainly the economic spending and the economic activity is beyond just the room nights, but if you look at generation of revenue back to the RSCVA, and then if I heard this correctly, and you can clarify this, please, there was a $5 million marketing advertising budget. If it's at the 250,000 mark, which I understand that it may not get there, but that's 5% of the total marketing budget. That's significant for a single project. So those are just some of my thoughts. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Murdoch.
Again, I kind of look at it, if you've got one more thought is you got an $8 million advertising budget. What are we advertising? Maybe this is an opportunity again to buy. You get the Reno Tahoe brand, you get the USA brand, you get a property brand, so I'm just saying, if it specifically is, to me, it's more of an advertising social media opportunity than it is a special event. So, I mean, to me, marketing dollars and advertising is kind of like you hope you get the best data to make sure it works. But to me, what else were we going to do with it? And we, you know what I mean? We need to get something going in our destination, and it might not be a bad thing. We come right out of marketing.
Sorry, Mr. If I could just respond to what Rick said. I don't disagree with that, Rick, but would we buy this? If they didn't come to us, would we buy this channel? Would we buy this market? Would we buy this audience? And I don't want to put staff on the spot for that question, so I'm not expecting an answer, but that's what I question.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Ms. Keel.
Thank you. Yeah, I think these are all very good points. I agree with all of them. And you can't really buy this. You can't compare this to anything else that I think marketing, like Christina said, it's got an influencer component, right? It's got a convention component. It's got a PR component. There is also, I don't know if you know about the tragic event that that happened with the prior Miss Teen USA. And so there's a mental illness component. There's a platform there that I know the mayor and I feel passionately about, and that we can use that in our community as well. So and then just the economic spend from $4 per room, and all of these women are so, my perception on pageants is completely different after seeing this. These women are very professional and mature and classy and fun, and they take pictures like when they're walking down the aisle and kids, little girls and stuff come running up and parents, they hug them and they take pictures with them. I mean, they are such a good representation. And when we talk about, is this our brand? I don't know if it's exactly our brand, but I can tell you it's not our brand.
Right.
And I think that we would not normally buy this because you can't just buy this kind of event. It's so multifaceted. And to Mr. Murdoch's point and what I said earlier, we're gonna spend this money. So are we foregoing, 2 weeks of advertising in Sacramento on wherever or a digital component? I don't know. Actually, we don't do TV now that I think about it. So I don't know, Christina could answer what we'd be foregoing, but we're gonna stay consistent with our marketing spend throughout the year. This is just diversifying our marketing spend for a few weeks in one point in time. So I think that Stephen, I love your idea on, in my mind, it's almost like negotiating. Like, what if we as a board say, okay, we're gonna give this back to staff, let them have the purview to go from 150 to 250, let them negotiate and get all those figures back. Like they said, we haven't gotten Hulu. They don't know the number of room nights that are going to other properties. There's a lot of questions out there. So maybe we give them the authority to go up to 250 and negotiate with Miss USA and say, we need more. You need to give us more in order for us to give you the 250.
Mr. Murdoch.
And our last minute. So it gives us the hammer and the leverage to say, hey, guys, you're coming to us last minute. We don't appreciate being an afterthought. We're a great destination. So give us the best shot you got, because we want it if you want to come here again.
Can I just add to that real
Yeah,
quick?
Mr.
And
Esparza.
it is, I feel exactly, it is 100% negotiation, right? And to Board Member Chapman's comments, I agree. We probably would not have targeted this so much as this is a market we're going after, but this was an opportunity brought to us. It can fit. It may not fit 100% in some of our outdoor, but when you look at, I still go back to some of the social media posts, again, that were shared with us. It's exposing people to the region, to Virginia City, the lake, downtown Reno, all these different venues. But I 100% feel that this is a negotiation piece. And I think this is how we're gonna progress on bringing new events to the areas. We're not gonna write the check just for every request that every event wants to come here. I think it's gonna be a give and take, and hey, if you guys, honestly, if this, and again, I'm getting ahead of myself, I would rather be in a position negotiating with them saying, let's do 3 years at X. If you hit these kickers, year 2 would be this, because at least you start building that relationship. It isn't this scramble at the end, and you start building some of that continuity. But no, I do. And I would be comfortable passing it to staff saying, hey, here's your window, hammer out a deal. And that doesn't mean that we just automatically go to 250, but there ought to be some strings attached and performance goals.
Just to be clear, they might say no completely though, because they asked for 450. So there's a very good chance that when we come back to 150 or whatever, they say forget you, and hey, so be it. I mean, I think all of us in this room agree that 450 is not the number, and we're not going to spend that kind of money. So just wanted to put it out there that there's a very good chance that we don't get it at all. So.
Councilwoman Bybee.
So I guess you kind of answered my question, Shannon. If we did not fund this at all or funded it at 150, without our funding, can they not hold the event?
Great question. I don't know. I don't think they're willing to show us those cards, if you will. I know, I'm pretty confident they have gotten hundreds of thousands of dollars in every destination they've gone, but I don't know how much. My gut tells me they didn't need 250. I think they would have been happy to do it at 350 last time. And now that they're not on Fox, now you're down to 250. That was like my thought process on the numbers, but I don't know. I don't know their economics.
And we don't know, was there another location that fell through and that's why they're here last minute, or that's just kind of how they set things up and it seems to be their MO?
Yeah, I think it's their MO, but I think it's Biloxi. I think it's between us and Biloxi. Yeah, Mr. Hurts,
That's
okay.
in the conversation that I had with their head of the organization, they were talking with Biloxi, this was a couple weeks ago. I don't know how serious or where it was, but that was the one other destination they had in the mix.
Okay.
And if I can, just a couple more things, Mr. Chair, thank you. I agree with Mr. Esquaga. I like the idea of throwing out a number, whether it's 150 with strings attached or with just conditions, which conditions of, there's so much unknown. You know, Christina doesn't have, we don't have, none of us have so many unanswered questions. Even though we've got this in front of us, there's a lot of things. We don't know what the Hulu package will be like. We don't know all the information they haven't gotten to you yet. It's hard for us to make a decision when we don't have all, you know, I operate on facts and information. That's how I make my best decisions, and we're kind of lacking some of that. So without that, I think the conditions or levels that we could increase up to an amount would be conditional on getting that information and showing, you know, the value there. And as far as the event itself, and I was looking online because I know I'm very familiar with Miss America, been involved in that program, and I wasn't sure, I couldn't remember if the Miss USA contestants actually have a platform that they, Miss America does, that the contestants actually choose a platform, whether it's Alzheimer's, whether it's veterans, mental health. I do know they're showing that they do, Miss USA extensively works with charities. And they ask every title holder, probably from their local up to their state and national title holders, to give to charities and to be involved. And they're very highly visible, you know, persona that can go out and promote and support different charities. It's women's empowerment. In a way, it's confidence. And I know through pageants, and I have worked with Miss America, which is different but not really the ability to take young women and build their self-confidence, teach them how to do interview skills, teach them life skills, the camaraderie they get with other young women, and then how they can bring that to younger women. Miss Teen USA is really not all about just a pretty girl in a swimsuit. It really is more than that. And I think when you meet, like you said, when you meet these young women that are so accomplished, that self-confidence is something that this program and Miss America both strive to build in young women, which is a positive. And I think, and we look at our younger demographics, you know, how many young women do we have that are interested in that or could benefit from it? And pageants aren't for everyone, but I think there's a lot of positive and empowering young women. So I see the benefit there definitely. As far as would we go out and get this? Maybe not, but can we look at the benefits to charities, to what the positive things and not the stereotypical things of pageants are, has a value for sure for me.
Okay, so I think we've had some really good conversation this morning, and I feel pretty comfortable in a position to discuss now the what the board would want to do in regards to a funding structure, if any. I feel that we put a couple numbers out there this morning. So just to keep this conversation moving along, what would be the appetite of the board? I mean, I can throw some recommendations out there based upon what I think we could do, but I'd probably need some clarification. And one other thing that, you know, Mr. Jimenez may be able to also, one of the things that was promised by Miss USA and Miss Teen USA in 2019 was that they had, you know, a lot of their reach was international. However, you know, it's very difficult, you know, they always say, oh, it was fantastic, got lots of international sites and views, but we've never realized any of that real true international travel or traffic from the last event either. So in my opinion, based upon the way the staff report is drafted today, we can give any amount up to $250,000. In my opinion, I would say we start at $150,000, but ask for deliverables and ask for a certain, and if there was something in addition that the board would like to do, you know, based upon maybe more spend or some sort of broadcasting or social media buy, that could be for additional dollars. But at this point, I think 150 would probably be the max that I'd be willing to put into this event for right now, unless we had some more deliverables from them.
Question, Mr. Lucy?
Yes.
So if we funded them at the 150,000, and you said looking at deliverables, do we want to put a number of up to the 250 with deliverables that are defined by, I guess, by staff?
We can do that, and the way we're stylized is to just not to exceed 250. So we could put it up to and amend the motion so that we could do up to 250 with certain deliverables, like Mr. Esquaga pointed out earlier. I don't know specifically what those deliverables would be, and that would be some sort of negotiation between staff and Miss USA to identify what those deliverables could be. A certain amount of room nights versus, traffic, web traffic, impressions to the website, whatever. Those types of things would probably be maybe KPIs that we could hit. So I think that's a good motion, Councilwoman. So I would recommend that the initial spend be $150,000. Allowing for staff to negotiate up to $250,000 on the event, and allow staff to negotiate certain KPIs and deliverables based upon performance of the event.
Just a question, are we giving authority to staff to then make the decision, or do they have to come back to us once again to meet?
We're giving the authority to staff to make the decision within that 150 to 250 range.
Thank you.
Mr. Kennedy.
I just want to get some clarification. So what we're saying is we will commit to $150,000 prior to the event, and the delta
Yes,
would be earned post-event,
Correct.
depending on deliverables. Okay.
correct. And that's my motion.
No, and are we in discussion?
We're in discussion.
Okay. No, and I do. I think I defer to staff on, I just repeat one more time. I went overcomplicated on the deliverables. I think we can make it simple. And honestly, it also probably, and again, I'll see what staff comes back with, but it wouldn't have to be all, or they might hit 2 of the 3, right? And maybe they can get 2 of the 3 compensated for it. So it wouldn't be all or nothing, but I think this gives us some flexibility and gives staff the ability to negotiate on our behalf. I think I'd be in favor of that.
Okay.
Even if I can,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, can I just throw something in there? We could go with the 150 as a base, and Stephen, to your thoughts, there could be 3 kickers that we equate at $50,000 each, that if they hit any or all of those, it could be up to 250 if we deem that those are measurable and impactful to our overall efforts. So if they hit 2 of the 3, it could, be an extra 100 or an extra 30 or an extra 50, however we want to structure that, as long as we have the endorsement of the board.
Ms. Ernie, did you raise your hand? Did you want to say something? Okay. All right, so there's a motion on the board, on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
I have a second from Mrs. Keel. Further discussion, Mr. Fraza, do you have anything?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I think we haven't had that POW marketing since COVID, really. And so Shannon, I think you bring some good points there to bring that exposure. I was trying to think sitting here, if we've had that Twitter, that Instagram, I'm trying to think of anything in the region that we've had. So looking at it, I guess you've kind of convinced me that looking at it from a marketing standpoint, and that's where my struggle was on the event side. And I think also that young women, that is very impactful. I think, and I understand what you're saying, Board Member Chapman, but I do think that the last time this was broadcast, I am concerned about the Hulu deal, but I think if, to go back to your point, if we can get 3 things, and one of them, I just don't want to put pressure on staff. I think we probably should define maybe a couple of those. I don't know. But I think marketing the entire region. Last time they went out, whether it's, I want to make sure it's a region, Reno, Tahoe, that they're out on those sites. I thought that was really cool when they did that. When they were, I don't know, they did art pieces, they did it all over the community. Different areas, and that
Or at
was
the
cool.
marina.
I do think the marketing, and I just don't think we've really had that since COVID, to be honest with you. So this is kind of, to me, I don't like them coming in at the last minute, but also, I will support this motion, but I want to get back to what you said. Let's put this in too to see if we can negotiate them being here for the next 3 years. I like that idea. I do. I like that idea. Let's make this Reno Tahoe their home
Well, we do it with
for the
bowling.
marketing. Yes, exactly.
I mean, even if they go to, if they have an off year,
Right.
but they can come back, maybe it's every other year
Right.
that they come to Reno. We've done that
Yeah.
before with many conferences and different
Yeah.
things that they don't necessarily come back to back, but they go
Right.
to and from. So I think there's ways to negotiate, and I want to give staff I don't want to narrow it too much for the staff to not be able to negotiate.
Right.
But I think it's good that we share with staff today those concerns. And to your point, Member Sfraza, is that, you know, I've traveled a number of times, but before going to Boston or going to Charlotte or going to Texas, you don't know whether the state is open, post-pandemic, masks, are they dining outside, or can you dine inside? And I think utilizing this, now realizing that this isn't going to transpire until later in the year, but it still allows for us to broadcast that, yes, to the country, to the world, that we are open, this is how we are operating, and there are things to do post-pandemic, and that we're, moving forward. Mr. Murdoch.
I think it's exciting that you can have somebody go to Sparks to an event,
The marina.
and
They
you know
were
what
at
I
the
mean?
marina
Or they
last
can go to
time.
Tahoe to the beach, Andy, or they can go to the bowling stadium and roll a bowling ball, or they can go watch the Aces, or they can go out to the convention center and do an event around here. I love that, because I think the generations are looking at that social
Yeah,
media. To me,
universe.
that really speaks volumes to what this really does do. And, because I have 3 daughters, women empowerment, I love it. I think it's important, and I appreciate Charlene's comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so without any further discussion, I have a motion and a second on the floor to approve $150,000 pre-event, and then with certain deliverables being met, negotiated by staff, the additional $100,000 up to $250,000 allowance, and that we direct staff to negotiate potentially a multi-year deal in future discussions.
I like that.
All right, so that is the current motion. Seeing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously with all members in attendance voting. We thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I do appreciate everybody's time and attention to this matter. We are going to move quickly through the final portions of our agenda here today. We are on to item F. This is board member comments regarding items for future meetings. Member Safraza, do you had discussions in regards to special events? And so with that, I will go and turn it back over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, just on that, just getting that board established, I want to make sure so we can get this process going. But also, I know there's been discussion about the nonprofits and what we do for them. Can we get a list for our next meeting, maybe from finance, from what we've done, like if there are waiver of fees or exchange, is there stuff that we do for nonprofits? I'm still new to this board. If I could get that information, that would be great to see what we do as far as, or the policy on when we give rents or discounts or whatever. I'd like to see that, please. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussion from any of the members? Seeing none, I will close that. Do we have any public comment, Ms. Fair?
There's none at this time.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, seeing none, we are adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. Have a great Friday.